Thanks for joining us for a political talk on another PolitiPod Live. Tonight we'll cover shootings in Minnesota, Senate hearings and listening, the economy, Bannon versus Marjorie Taylor Greene, ICE Today, and the Trump dump. We'll also have our segments international news and more on this. I'm Tom Bickle,
And I'm Matt Nisanoff.
and we'll start with
Shooting in Minnesota. Everyone's heard this story by now. There's nothing new in the details of the shooting of Alex Pretty. There is a detail that has come out, which is that the shooter, whoever he is, has been put on administrative leave. That's a line that you hear a lot from when there are shootings by law enforcement. And we'll see what actually comes of it, if anything. But that is the latest news. And the story, of course, um, also, it's been reported widely that the FBI supervisor in Minnesota, Tracy Mergen, resigned after the pressure to drop the civil rights investigation into Jonathan Ross. That was the other ICE murderer. He was the one who committed the first murder that you heard about, Renee Good, although not the first murder, because actually these folks are Alex Pretty is the sixth person who's been murdered by ICE forces. But the results of Renee Good's murder is that there was an attempt by the FBI to investigate it as a civil rights issue, and that supervisor received a lot of pressure from the government, from the other branches of government, to give up that give up that uh, investigation. So she resigned in protest. We'll see what comes of that. And all of that, of course, broke just before the case where Alex Pretty was shot. Um, what do you think, Tom?
I mean, it's breathtaking that we're seeing this on American streets, and this country was already fairly wound up. I think a lot of people are awake to the danger and nervous about these things, concerned about these things, and we had barely had a chance to try to digest Renee Good's death, and then we got another one. I couldn't believe it. I'm sure a lot of other people couldn't believe it either. And it's at a point where you either somehow find a way to accept it or you don't. And I think we're choosing don't. Thank goodness. Thank goodness, because if we accept it, we're only going to get a lot more. Funny how that is.
Well,
So
in
I'm
fact,
glad to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no problem. And in fact, I've heard people on social media talking about folks from other countries talking about, oh, we were going to set up a trip to the U.S., or we've been to the U.S. before, so we were planning another trip. And with all this happening, we don't want to do that. We don't feel it's safe, and we're not going to go back. So there are results from these actions beyond the immediate tragic results. There are repercussions that are not um, that are also not beneficial for our country or for what's going to happen. What's going to come from that. Well, one thing that is good, I think you would agree with me, is that there have been protests just about everywhere. Anywhere you can think of, there's been a protest. Some amazing protests in major cities and smaller, and yet as as representative of the tragedy in smaller cities as well. And um, there was a day of protests. In fact, in where I am in New York, there was a big gathering at a place called Union Square, which is a common place for protests to be held. And before that started, there were smaller mini protests that people could go to. And then as you left that one, they were saying, please, continue up and join what's going on at Union Square, and building a crowd that way. And I was able to stop by one of them in Brooklyn, just on the south side of Prospect Park, if you are familiar with the Brooklyn area. And here's a report from there. Hey, Tom and Matt. It's Matt. I'm out in Brooklyn today, and there's a group of folks here from the United Federation of Teachers who are holding a rally against ICE, and they just ended. It looks like the crowd is very peaceful, very insistent on their point, and they are saying that the actions that are taking place through ICE are, of course, unacceptable, and need to have a response. People need to stand up, and that's what's going on out. And I believe we can also show what the crowd looked like at that smaller protest and who the people were. It was a gathering of just everyday folks and families. Can we go to the second clip and see that?
Very deliberate not to use the word leadership when we describe Michael Mulgrew, because he is not leading anything. He is watching us lead. So please remember that we are the union. If you're a teacher, don't point over there. We are the union. The fingers are pointing at us. We can hold our leadership accountable. We can hold our government accountable, and we can make change. The power is with us. And so thank you so much for coming out. We're teaching the students and each other that we have power together. There is a lot of effort in all of our administrations at all of our schools, it seems, to try to use fear to continue the status quo. We reject that, and we celebrate how we can come together and create power and break down the silos between teachers, admin, students, and parents. We're all people together, and we all stand up for the rights of all people. As we said, all children are our children. All children are our children. With those who are able to come, we will gladly, joyfully go together to Union Square, and we also respect and honor the needs of families that need to stay around here in Brooklyn. So do what you need to do. We know that we're all marching together in solidarity and carrying with us in our hearts and our spirits, and we're here to fight. The people united will never be defeated.
So as you see, it is the response, and it's the response of everyday people. This is not a radical group of teenagers. This is not, six guys, setting aside their beer bottles to complain about it. This is families, kids running around, some listening, some joining in and with what's going on. But these are families, moms with strollers, who have had enough and are standing up, and that's what we need. There is some call for a larger strike. I believe they're talking about that on the 30th. I don't know if you know any more details about that.
I don't have any more details than that. I know they're also talking about another No Kings rally on March 28th. Not sure if you've heard that.
I saw an email about it, I must say, but right now I'm so focused on February that I haven't gotten to planning out stuff for March. But yeah,
February 30th is clear if you need me.
Excellent. Yeah, I will try to get some more information out about that. But I've heard the 30th, I think, once or twice from different groups, and so
That's January 30th?
No. Yes, January 30th. So a couple of days, and the call is for a general strike. They're mentioning that if they can actually, there's a group that's trying to get people to pledge to strike, and they're holding off on giving a date until they have enough people agreeing to it. And their argument is they believe that there's some research out there that shows that if a protest has over 3.5% of the population involved, that any protest that has those numbers has never failed.
Yeah, I remember that from the last No Kings rally. That was starting to be a really significant bit of data, but it's sustaining that level. I think not just reaching it that's important.
Gotcha. Well, by their reckoning, that would be 11 million people, 11 million Americans, and they're trying to get people to pledge to participating, and I assume, as you say, also continuing beyond just the one protest. And so their date has not been announced because they want to get everyone to agree first. And 11 million is, I don't know, I think that sounds pretty achievable.
I also think that. I mean, it's significant, but it's doable.
Well, we'll keep our ears open on that and hopefully have an update for you on the date of that event as well.
Unfortunately, we can count on this administration to keep provoking the public, so I can only imagine it's going to be very achievable at some point.
Right, right. There'll be 11 million people who are directly affected soon. Um, okay, moving on to our next issue. We're looking at the Senate hearing. Are they listening? We don't know. We'll find out. And there is another thing happening on January 30th, coincidentally, is that the Senate has canceled a vote um, over the issue of shutdown and budget and what's happening. And apparently, um, Senate Dems have vowed to block any funding going to DHS and ICE because of the Minnesota shootings. Why it took this particular shooting to do it, I don't understand. Will they follow through? Is this just some kind of negotiating ploy where they're going to hold back on the votes and then the Senate would need 60 votes, so they'd need 10 Democrats to vote with them. They're saying the Democrats right now are saying they won't give them any votes. Will there be some sort of compromise? Is there something that they'll be trading for to give to wind up accidentally winding up with having 10 Democrats vote for it? We don't know yet, but we'll see what actually happens. That sort of thing has happened in the past, and that's part of what has created the outrage because of people not following through on their promises, particularly Chuck Schumer. Senator Angus King, who's an independent from Maine, says that he won't even vote. Not only will he not vote for ICE funding, but that he won't even vote for a package around ICE. So he won't vote for there's a military and law enforcement funding and all sorts of other packages that are combined to get things through. And he's saying if it has ICE funding in it at all, he won't vote for it. So let's hope that there are enough people like Angus King who will take a stand and actually follow through on it. Anything about budgets on your mind?
No, I'm not one for numbers, Matt.
There you go. Well, so let me ask this. Now on to the maybe more interesting stuff. What's going on with Kristi Noem and her testifying before the Judiciary Committee? Are you up on that?
You know, I understand she has got to she's got to testify March 3rd, and they've been haggling for weeks to schedule her testimony as part of the panel's regular oversight of DHS. But her high-profile appearance is expected to be dominated by senators' questions regarding the agency's immigration enforcement tactics following 2 fatal shootings by federal agents in Minneapolis in the past month. You may have heard about that. Some GOP senators, including Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, who's a member on the committee, have called for an independent investigation into the latest shooting over the weekend, while others have criticized initial comments from top administrative officials that the victim bore responsibility and not the officers involved. So, yeah, public backlash has been pretty strong. And not only has it popped Bovino out of his little spot, sent him back where he started from, but they're also looking at Kristi Noem, and she's got this hearing coming up, and it's entirely possible they may use this to rake her over the coals. I hope they do. Thought I saw just before we went to air. I thought I saw a quote from her that I'm only doing what I was ordered to do by Trump and Stephen Miller. So, kind of a warning. F me, no F you. Huh. If you're gonna dangle me, I'm not going down alone. And I may have to tell people where other bodies are buried. So let's protect me is the subtext I'm gathering there, which just it makes for interesting TV and items under pressure. That's how you find the cracks. You apply pressure, and I think these fissures have been there. I think we just needed to bring them out. I'm sorry we've had to murder people in the street to get to that point, but at least it's hasn't taken. At least that's been enough, apparently. So
Well,
we'll look forward to that pleasant viewing.
we'll see. It'd be nice, but they have shown a willingness to close ranks, especially around completely fallacious details and stories. So we'll
They will.
see if
They're so comfortable with so much. They will tolerate anything. I don't understand it.
yeah,
It's got to give. Something has got to break.
well, we'll see if this is it. Maybe Christie will
Yes.
be the weakest link, and she'll actually stumble into being honest
Goodbye.
on.
Yeah.
It's possible. It is possible, and so we'll see. And that's you said when March 3rd, a hearing
March
on March
3rd is what
3rd,
I've got in front of me.
and if Chuck Grassley becomes a hero, that would be
Oh,
incredibly bizarre, but
oh man,
worthwhile if some
dashing
truth.
man of courage, Chuck Grassley.
Yeah. Um, of course, yeah, and he's been in on it all along as well. I mean, he's been one of the ones who's helped close ranks. So, what is happening here? Why is he all of a sudden willing to go against the approved narrative? And or is this part of that? I mean, is he going to bring Christine Nome before the committee and then give a stirring speech about how this poor woman has been through enough and that
Well, I
she
want to
just needs
say,
to be listened to?
last week when we saw over the past week or so when we saw Jack Smith testify, he was talking about several co-defendants that worked to frustrate the election in 2024. And I remember Chuck Grassley having his thumb in that pie, as I recall. I could be wrong, but I wonder if that's motivating him somehow.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, he'll have his chance.
Time will
He'll
tell.
be he'll be the chair on that March 3rd meeting, so we'll see what he actually does. Excellent. Well, let's move on to our first segment of the night. This is the international news. A couple of things have been happening internationally as well. We have an Iranian hitman, or he himself is not Iranian, but he was sent by the Iranians
Ah,
to assassinate a journalist. Uh, uh, Actually, a woman and her husband who are from Azerbaijan, but she is a journalist, and the
wow.
Iranians apparently don't like her very much. They've sent people to go after her on several occasions. This guy was caught. He's been, after several attempts of trying to murder them, he was caught and just today was sentenced to 15 years in a Brooklyn court. We'll see where he's shipped off to. And apparently, he was very sorry.
I mean, that's important. He feels bad about it.
Yeah, exactly. The multiple times that he did it. Yeah, he feels very sorry.
Right.
And that's
He
good.
feels bad about each and every time he tried to kill her.
Exactly. Exactly. It's, that's the nature of remorse.
That's integrity, Matt. That's a conscience right there.
Yeah. Yeah. The journalist, on the other hand, um, would like to see made a call for Donald Trump to do to the Ayatollah what he did to Maduro,
Oh boy.
and go in and bring him out and bring him to, I guess, bring him to Brooklyn too. They seem to be everyone's coming to Brooklyn. I don't know, but all roads lead to Brooklyn and perhaps justice itself.
Well,
And
she's in luck because he'll do nearly anything to avoid anybody mentioning the word Epstein and files in the same sentence. So, yeah, it's not too far down the list. She may get her wish.
yeah, could be on the short list. We'll so in fact, I mentioned she's been through this in other cases. And last year, she testified at a trial of two men who'd been plotting to kidnap her at her Brooklyn home and kill her. And that happened in 2022. The prosecutor at that time had said that Iran had put a $500,000 bounty on her head. And those two men were convicted and sentenced to 25 years. So we'll keep an eye on these folks. There's 25 years and 15-year sentences, see what happens, and see how Iran responds, I guess. That's next on the to-do list. Also, moving to China, there's the
You
spring.
are. We'll enjoy.
Yeah, right. There you go.
This show will be a little different next week.
We'll see exactly. We'll see how the internet works. Um, the in China, there's a spring festival that's coming up, and apparently there's a new toy making the rounds for the festival and has become wildly popular. And it's a donkey that has a frown sewn on its face, and it's the new It toy. It's the new one that everybody wants to get. And a shopkeeper had said that the expression resonates with Chinese workers and workers' families right now. And he also said it fits the reality of modern working families. So, what does that tell you?
Yeah, that's not a real vote of confidence for the work-life balance. I do wish we had an image to go with that. I want to see the frowning donkey doll.
We can do it. We can find something. We can find something. Um, if not, if not immediately, we'll make a point of having it next week. But let's see which one we can actually do. At the same time, speaking of international news, we should mention that Marco Rubio, who is technically the Secretary of State, um,
So they
he's
say, so they tell him.
yeah, exactly. We'll see what happens from it, but there is. Hey, there you go.
Courtesy of the BBC News, thank you.
There you go. All the
Sorry, I
all
didn't mean
worth.
to steal your thunder there. Please continue.
No, no, no. I love it. This is great. This is the
That
current
this is
state.
capturing the Chinese zeitgeist right here. This is what's on in the beating hearts of your average Chinese person.
Yep,
Frowny donkey. Kind of cute.
certainly cute. I can see why they are being snapped up at the stores. Uh, Speaking of a jackass, Marco Rubio says that the technical talks have begun with Greenland and Denmark, and I don't know what that specifically entails, but the technical talks, I guess he's trying to promote that administration lie that there's something that's going to actually come from Trump's desperation to control Greenland to gain profit from the minerals, from mineral resources there. But they're keeping this story going, and he's saying that technically they're having talks, and at the same time, Denmark is releasing stories about the troop uh, security movements. Apparently, there are dog sled teams that have been running along the borders of Greenland, Danish uh, troops. And according to the source, these teams have been effective since World War II It's not just this is not just the Iditarod, a team of dogs running one place to another. These are military troops, heavily, uh, heavily supplied and making certain that the country is safe. So I don't know how the technical talks square up with the border patrols, but we'll see over the next couple of days what actually happens. And who knows? Actually, Trump might refocus himself on the Ayatollah. So
He
we'll see.
may.
See if that comes
Always good for a laugh, the old Ayatollah. Great guy.
through.
You'd like him.
Would I?
No, probably not.
Yeah, I think the protesters there are, as far as I know, the protesters are continuing, and the movement towards kind of wrapping up that regime appears to be what's on the table, seems to be what's happening. So we'll have to consider what's next. And actually, some of the protesters are talking about bringing the Shaw's family back. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea either, frankly. The reason the Shaw was run out of the country in the 79 was because of how atrociously it was being run under his rule. So we'll see. Maybe there's another option. Maybe there's even a democratic option somewhere in there. We'll have to ask. We'll have to see if we can find someone from Iran to ask. Anything else on international news you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, keeping it domestic.
There we go. Speaking of domestic, one way you can look at the domestic picture is through the economy. And to understand the economy, you have to understand things like the GDP. And the total monetary market value of all finished goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific time period. And I don't think it's condescending of Investopedia to give pronunciation guide to GDP, like at the top of this graphic, but it's there. I mean, it's good for learning. And
I mean, in French, they'd call it GDP. So I think that's the best I can do with it. I apologize. With apologies to the entire nation of France and all the Francophone countries.
yeah, where's your pronunciation guide now?
I did my best.
So speaking of the economy, part of the reason that we brought it up, or part of the reason I wanted to mention it, was that there's been this massive snowstorm and winter storm that's had its go at the United States recently, and people are talking about it being 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 inches, and ice of 3 inches, and all sorts of um, situations. And I got to say, in New York City, we did get that solid snowfall, but we did have services running from before the storm started. Here's one of them now.
Reliable.
There you go. That was an ambulance.
If you need to turn
And
down the lights and be quiet till the heat is off, Matt, we understand.
there you go. At least I'm not the Ayatollah. So we saw that here as well, and it was plenty deep, and trying just to shovel out the stairs at the door was quite a chore
Yeah, I
to get
bet.
to the sidewalk. And with that said, the services were running before the storm ever hit, and handled getting the streets clear very well. There's been traffic moving outside of the day of the actual storm. Uh, People are getting around. There is an issue with how the snow is being dealt with, and there seems to be a general sort of, we plowed it out of the street, and now we'll just sit and wait till it melts, which is not not going to happen quickly either because the weather's still it's still very cold and the ice is not going to melt for a couple of weeks, I would think. And in other places, in other cities, they have talked about how they are handling removing the snow. They're going in with bulldozers and loading up dump trucks and moving the snow out instead of just piling it onto the side. So that is a legitimate issue. Now, so the whole point of my bringing this up during a segment on the economy, why would I do that? And that is because the snow has had an effect on the economy and that stores have had to close down, businesses um, have had to take their time out. And of course, that all has an effect on the economy short term, but they're talking about this particular storm may be, because it's so widespread, may influence about 2% of the GDP, which that makes a difference. That can have an influence. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it does. It is a significant enough number. Um, Anything about storms or GDPs or U.S. GDP that you'd like to mention?
Nope, no, I think I'm gonna bank that pronunciation win I started with and just cut my losses.
You just want to get back to the international news now. I see.
That's right. That's right.
Well, how about you? The EU has signed another contract. You may have, if you've listened to our show before, you may recognize that we mentioned a story of the EU setting up a trade deal with South America, a certain trade group down there called Mercosur, which is a combination of most of the countries in South America. And they just signed that deal. Some of European nations were not happy about it, but then again, some of the South American countries were not too happy about it. Everybody was unhappy, so it must be a good deal. I don't know who says that kind of stuff, but people say that stuff all the time. And so here they go again. The EU has set up another trade deal that they've been working on allegedly for 20 years. 20 years in the making, a deal with India, who is whose big trade partner up to this point has been the U.S. But the EU has gone in, got a deal, and it represents for the EU represents 25% of global GDP. So it's pretty significant. We're talking about 2% making a difference in the US GDP. This is having an influence over 25% of global GDP, a third of global trade. So not just the GDP, not just the money side, but the goods themselves, a third of global trade. And it cuts tariffs by 87%, pardon me, 97% of for EU products
Did you say
going to India.
107%?
Right,
Sorry.
right. 16,000%. That's the Trump figure.
Right.
But actually, it cuts tariffs by 97% for EU products going to India. And it could very clearly offset EU losses due to the US tariffs. And on the other hand, it allows India diversification from having just the US as its biggest partner, having the EU to trade with. So there's some news for you.
There you have it.
There's also in economic news, we can bring up that the U.S. government's invested 1.6 billion for stake in rare earths, uh, in rare earths firm. So the Trump administration has invested 1.6 billion in a U.S. critical mining firm, and it makes official the latest push to reduce China's dominance over the rare earth sector, they believe. And I believe that that's also an organization that has some dealings with one of Trump's kids. But the agreement with USA Rare Earth which gives the government a stake in the firm. Here we are again, talking about government getting involved with owning shares in the company, which used to just send the Republicans into fits and outrage. How is it that you could possibly have nationalization of things like rare earth and minerals and things so important? But here it is. It's okay when the current administration does it, apparently. Uh, but it's days after Trump claims to have secured the framework of a deal over Greenland, which he says induces access to rare earth minerals. There's similar investments that the U.S. government has made in mineral companies since Trump's gotten back into the White House and made the economy his personal piggy bank. Officials went to boast U.S. production of minerals essential to everything from smartphones to defense technologies. U.S. Rare Earth, which controls deposits of so called heavy rare earths that are often used for defense techniques, says the investment will fund mining, processing, metal making, and magnet manufacturing. Anything else before we move from the economy to other issues?
No, I'm happy to let the economy take care of itself.
Yeah, that's working out well.
Yeah, yeah, what could go wrong? Sure, they've got it under control.
Yeah. Um, it is a concern. I mean, once again, as I say, the government is all of a sudden owning portions of companies, which, if it were any other any other U.S. administration, I think, oh well, maybe they're trying to do something, and they're doing something for defense, or they're trying to do something to make these things so that they're going to a particular use and benefit for the country.
You could at least try to talk yourself into some altruistic motive. Right.
Right,
What a
right.
pleasant history that used to be.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But this is all about what will help. Um,
One
what will
guy.
help put money in Trump's pocket and or his family's pocket, and that's not really okay.
I don't love
But
it.
speaking of things that are okay, or maybe not okay, or at least interesting, that brings us to our next issue, which is Bannon versus Marjorie Taylor Greene, or what's called Apocalypse Now versus Then. I say that because of Steve Bannon's. Well, let me tell you the story first. So, Steve Bannon, of course, sides with ICE and tells Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act. He's been trying to weasel in an excuse to bring about the Insurrection Act since before the first administration. But Marjorie Taylor Greene defends, says that people need to lose their blinders, quote unquote, lose their blinders. She says, and that we're being incited into a civil war. And this is a little, we're back to that sort of crazy thing where Marjorie Taylor Greene is making sense. She's
I
saying
wouldn't have
things
expected it.
that it's exactly from everything else she's done in her career. It's not that you wouldn't think that that would be the person who's making who's going to be so clear eyed, but she is, and she's being straight up about this. And Steve Bannon's little storytelling to Trump, at least for the last since before the first administration, has always been to promote this fallacy that there is American carnage. You may remember that Trump even used that phrase in his first inauguration, talking about the
Sure.
American carnage that existed, which did not and does not. And
Starting to.
right, they're doing absolute. They have gone to such an extent to try to promote that as a thing. that they're willing to kill Americans in the street. And how do you handle that? How do you deal that? How do you avoid giving them what they want, while at the same time hold out so that we don't wind up getting mass shootings? I mean, they're talking about, well, so that's so Bannon saying this is absolutely no surprise.
Isn't it
He's
compelling, Matt? How even you, mild mannered amateur reporter, just thinking out loud logically, you get up right up to the edge of an issue and you're like, whoa, hey, what's that over there? I don't want to get any closer to, but if you think about it too long, yeah, people are getting hurt. And some people don't want to see other people getting hurt. You know, that's my abuelita. That's my grandma. That's my dad you're manhandling over there. And it's going to come to trouble. I don't want to talk about it on the airwaves or anywhere else any more than you do. But you can't ignore it and pretend it's not a thing. To speak of it is not to encourage it or to speak for it. But yet we shy away. We don't want to talk about it. I want to say too much, and I get that, but
well,
it's telling that we keep being brought up right to the line of that.
in part because I don't want to give them what they want.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm mindful of that.
to go to the extent of creating the carnage that they so badly want, or even the inkling of it, just lets them justify. Not that they need reality. They've never needed reality.
That's true. They'll
They're
make it
gonna
up
say it.
if they need to. They'll make it up.
Right. They're gonna say it anyway. But the point is, if it's not actually happening, then people can see for themselves. That's kind of the whole thing with this Minnesota shooting, is that the storytelling afterwards was that American carnage. Alex Pretty pulled a gun and was trying to attack the officers and was, doing this and that. And then you see the video, and then you see, oh well, actually he was had his back to him, and he was trying to help the woman up who the ICE agent had already shoved down to the ground because she was a clear and present danger. Yeah, and so they had to push over the lady to express their dominance. But clearly, what does not happen is the story that they were telling, and they were all telling it in the effort to, if we all say it, if we're all on message, and if we get it to our friends at Fox and Newsmax and whatever the other channels are called nowadays that do that sort of stuff, that if we promote the message of the day, we'll get what we want from it, which is the promotion of this idea of wild anarchy in the street that has to be tamed, and we need the Insurrection Act. So what's important, I think, is that that hasn't been the case, and that people have not just grabbed arms and run into the street and grabbed Molotov cocktails and you know gone and done the reacted in the way that they have tried to promote to encourage.
I think it's one thing that's notable to point out that came out yesterday or today is that the gentleman they killed, Mr. Pretty, had a run in with him the week before, and they had broken his rib, manhandling him. This was not his first brush with these people, and yet he's out there doing the thing, man. He's out there protecting people, literally putting his body between danger and a victim. You can't say enough about it.
Yeah, that is true.
And not just the once.
Absolutely. I don't know if we have something else to say about Vivino.
We do. Let me bring that up. Just one moment. A little late on my technological homework here, but I'll get it.
So I'll introduce that we are moving on to our second segment for the evening, and that is what we call More on This.
That's right.
There we go.
More on this. Your favorite segment and mine.
And the
That's right. This week we witnessed as one of the current administration's flashiest stars, having streaked across this country to bursts of violence and the stench of tear gas, may have finally flamed out and plummeted back to El Centro, California. Who is Greg Bovino? Nailed it. Who is Greg Bovino? Well, it's time for more on this. According to the laziest research free AI can provide, Gregory Kent Bovino is was born in San Bernardino County, California, but he grew up in a place called Blowing Rock, North Carolina, and he's sucked ever since. He's a third generation immigrant of Italian descent because God has a morbid sense of humor. Bovino graduated from the Lollipop Guild, Western Carolina University in 1993 and joined the U.S. Border Patrol in 1996. Since 2025, he has served as the Commander at Large. Hard to say that without snickering. Of the United States Border Patrol, a position created because Commander Big Boy Pants didn't fit on a business card. A position that reports directly to the Secretary of Homeland Security and impatient pet sitter, Kristi Noem. In 2025, Bovino was a big man in the Border Patrol, standing head and shoulders above the rest, which isn't easy when you're technically classified as a teacup human. He's just little. All right. He led high-profile operations in major U.S. cities, becoming the public face of the administration's immigration crackdown. His leadership was defined by aggressive, norm-breaking tactics, including the use of helicopters to repel agents into apartment complexes, smashing car windows of non-compliant suspects, and using chemical irritants during protests. You know, America. Just like the founding fathers aspired to. You may have seen Bovino on TV or on the web. He is the courageous pair of shoes regularly and barely seen hiding behind a crowd of government thugs. He is the pint-sized authoritarian who looks more like your lesbian gym teacher in high school. And he is the short king who cosplays Heinrich Himmler in SS trench coats. Bovino's methods have made him a lightning rod for criticism, including when a federal judge in Illinois previously ordered Bovino to report daily on his agent's use of force following Operation Return to Sender in Kern County, where a federal judge ruled that Bovino's wide net sweeps, which targeted farm workers and day laborers in Home Depot parking lots and orchards, likely violated the Fourth Amendment. The judge issued a preliminary one more time with feeling. The judge issued a preliminary injunction forbidding Bovino's agents from conducting similar sweeps in California's Central Valley, effectively ending the operation in that region. You'll remember him from when U.S. District Judge Sarah Ellis ordered Bovino to meet her in person every day to account for his team's use of force following reports that agents had tear gassed a children's Halloween parade and used conscience-shocking force, that's a quote, conscience-shocking force against journalists. You'll remember him from when Judge Ellis noted on record that she believed Bovino and his team lied about the level of threat posed by protesters to justify using riot control weapons. Nah, that doesn't sound like him. And you'll remember Bovino from when he oversaw operations in Minneapolis, where two civilians, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, were fatally shot by federal agents during protests. So that's who Greg Bovino is. He's a small, tiny little man, but it has nothing to do with the size of his bones, but the size of his humanity. Jokes aside, it's not his height that makes him a small man. It's his character, his lack of empathy, and the trail of willful destruction in his wake. All right, and that's it for more on this. On to the next.
Beautifully put, frankly. That was
Thank you.
you're absolutely right. I saw what you did there in the first part. But yeah, no, and but the conclusion was absolutely right on target. That was beautifully said. And while we're speaking about the big bovine, we should also, I guess, then move on to ICE and what it's up to. What is ICE up to today? And so far, we've got 2 days after detaining 5-year-old Liam. Liam Ramos, you may remember the pictures of the blue bunny hat
And the Spider-Man backpack.
and the Spider-Man backpack. They also seized a 2-year-old girl, and whose father was coming from the store, whose warrant or final removal order flew them to Texas within 8 hours, defying the judge who had asked that the child be, or who had ordered that the girl be returned to her mom. So let's. I don't know if you have anything else on that story.
Nothing to add, sir.
And that's why you get the sort of response that you do from people in the street. Is there a graphic there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is station entrance to one of the platforms of the subway in New York City. And that's what the actions have brought the public perception to be. There's also apparently a protest that started up at the Texas Ice Center as detainees protest the detention of 5-year-old Liam Ramos and his father, and chanting Libertad,
Libertad, yeah.
and demanding humane treatment for detainees and protesters. So even those who are there understand that protesting is the positive step, the thing to do. Attorney General Pam Bondi gives Governor Walz conditions for ICE to leave Minnesota and return the rule of law. This one absolutely is, in my mind, so ridiculous, so backward engineering of the situation. In other words, she's trying to say, "Oh well, there's things that we wanted all along that you could have just given us, and then we wouldn't have had this whole problem." Oh, give us the voter database and give us the this and that. They never were interested in any of that. They never asked for any of that. And even if they did, who the hell are they to ask for any of that?
Yeah.
It's not their place. So now that there's trouble and there's a reaction and there's a backlash publicly, all of a sudden it's, oh, well, no, we're just wanting these 2 or 3 things and then we'll be on our merry little way. So this whole play acting of just give us things.
Matt, it puts me in the mind of a mugger who says, "Give me all your money." And you go, "No." And he says, "How about $5?" Get out of here. That's what you get.
Right. Can you cover my bus pass? I got
Right, exactly. Buy me a sandwich. Pathetic. It's pathetic.
Yeah. Yep. So the demands are that they wanted the voter rolls and they wanted a repeal of sanctuary city status in Minnesota, in the state, throughout the state. Neither of which is their place to, first of all, not even their place to ask, but secondly, absolutely a grotesque mismanagement of the situation to try to get out of the backlash that the public is giving them for their actions. Go ahead. You were about to say?
Well, as you're speaking, I'm listening and I'm thinking, which is the least I can do. And thank God that some of our elected representatives have the guts to tell these people, no, that's not what we do here. It's not what we are about here. Now, it only stands to reason if you're a governor and you let your state just get steamrolled by the first person who says boo to you, well, not only is your state not well served, but as a governor, you're out all that power. You give away the only thing you have that's worth anything. You throw in your seed corn away, so you can't. Anyway. Now take that idea that where governors, for example, can resist and say no, and put this administration on its heels. Now do Congress. Congress has given away so much of their power. They're supposed to hold the purse strings. They're supposed to control whether and when we go to war and how, and they're supposed to talk it out so that the American people feel like there's been a good airing of all the best ideas and motivations. And they give it all away on day one. On day one, they give all that away. And look where it's put us. Thank God that we've got some governors who will put their foot down, and even out of probably a sliver of self-interest, to put it mildly, but that's also my interest. So thank God that not every single representative we have in the halls of power has sold us out as quickly and as cheaply as they possibly could, as some of them have.
Yeah, the Republicans in Congress have rolled over, as you point out, almost immediately, all terribly concerned about potentially being challenged in the primaries by a MAGA person, so they just lick the boot. And that's the
Quickness.
problem with having Republicans in power. Speaking of Republicans in power,
Yes, sir.
there's this guy.
This guy, you know?
Yeah, this guy in this place. So on to our final issues for the evening, the dump.
The Trump dump.
Trump.
Trump dump. We need a cool overlay. Trump dump.
Oh, that'd be thanks. That'd be amazing.
We'll work on it, folks.
Um,
Send in those donations. We'll get right on it.
well, I'll tell you what. You go right ahead and give us a start on the Trump dump for the week, please.
Well, I mean, one of the first things in the Trump dump is ground we've covered lightly already. That of Mr. Bovino and his imminent departure back to El Centro. It represents just another taco in the buffet, the Mexican food buffet that is Trump's many taco moments. The public's pushed back. We are aghast not only at their murders, but at their lies about said murders, that we can see our lies. It'd be bad enough if this thing happened 3 levels underground and nobody ever saw it, and we'd have to take the administration's word for it based only on their credibility. But no, we've all seen this from 16 different angles, sort of infrared and satellite. We can see that they murdered these people, and then they told us, no, we didn't. Shut up. And anyway, and the public reacted accordingly, and Taco chickened out again. He backed down. He said, oh, well, let me get this guy out of here. Jerkwad number 2 is going to be just as bad as jerkwad number 1, but it finally put them on their heels. They're not doing the same double down and push forward 2-step, which is just dragged us kicking and screaming towards the gates of hell. So we managed to pause that a little bit. I hope that we realize how valuable that is and keep it up and don't quit. Anyway, that's the first happy note to open the Trump dump.
There you go. And perhaps as pathetic, he has hosted
I'm doing my best.
Yeah, exactly. There was a huge deal made out of the expense that production was made for a movie was made based on Melania, I guess on her life, or I don't know if it's specifically
Who cares?
her entire life or a particular part of it or what have you. But it spent something like $60 million to do this thing.
I mean,
there are entire 11-part series on shows that are going for 35 million. So how do you spend 60 million? But what matters is it seems to have all gone to waste because the movie has certainly flopped. In theaters, there's examples of no seats being sold for the premiere showing.
If you dropped a beluga whale out of a helicopter at 5,000 feet, it couldn't flop any harder than Melania's utterly fictional. I don't care what they're putting on the screen. I don't believe a word of it. Never will. Nothing could flop harder. Yeah, like you said, I think you said 3 tickets in all of London or Great Britain or something. Yeah, I wouldn't be caught dead at that stupid thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that handful in London and then in Boston, absolutely no tickets sold at all.
I love it.
So, yeah, and
They couldn't
it's
get a couple of like loyal maggots to go and tolerate that thing. They could drag a couple of, I don't know, corpses or mannequins or something into the theater just for show. I mean, Stephen Miller could do, I don't know.
well, if they got a booster seat, they could do something for
They could
Bovino
get
and
Bovino in on a Tuesday
Steve.
matinee for half price because he looks like he's 6. Yeah.
But
I know some
um,
wonderful short people. I'm sorry for the short jokes, but F that guy.
there you go.
Little squirt.
That particular individual,
That
not short
specific,
people in general.
that one right
Right.
there.
Right there.
That's it. You
Um,
get it.
but so Trump apparently held a special screening at the White House, invited CEOs and VIPs, and all of them. I'm sure were excited to be there, and as excited as everybody else who seems to be flocking to the theaters to not see it. It's cratered. It's flopped, and we'll
I heard
see.
it said that if they showed it on a plane, people would still walk out. You gotta
Wow!
love it.
Yikes! So that's been happening at the White House. I'm sure that will put him in a wonderful mood. And negotiations, the technical talks with Greenland will go beautifully now. Um,
You know, the funny part is, I'm sure they still got paid. They're gonna do just fine.
somebody got paid something. That's for sure.
Already lining up rights for the sequel, Matt.
Nice. I think it should be an animated series, but I don't know. We'll see. Don't give him any ideas. 3D. Um, there is so while that's more on the humorous side of things, we've mentioned previously about the backlash to what's happened in Minnesota, and one of the strange twists is that Donald Trump and thereafter all of his minions came out to say that you don't bring guns to protests. You don't bring guns. You don't bring loaded guns. You don't bring guns with extra magazines, and you don't carry guns in America.
Yeah, or
Which,
we'll shoot you down and you got it coming.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that seems strange coming from a Republican.
You know, Matt,
Um,
I gotta tell you, for the 10 long years, I used to never not know much about Donald Trump, and I started paying attention around that first election. I read a few articles, and what became clear is that there's nobody he won't fuck over. There's nobody he won't leave holding the bag as long as he gets his piece, and he always gets his piece. He's always the first one out and the last one in. And there's nobody he won't sell out. And I was just watching these Second Amendment folks and the Red Hatters just flock to him. And I said, they're going to burn everything. He's going to burn everything you hold dear. And what surprised me, though, is they still love him for it. But he does seem to have gotten a little too close to the flame on this one. He just casually came out. And, sometimes I picture him as a guy who lies to his wife a lot. And sometimes you just got to go in there, look her in the eye, and tell her the most ridiculous bullshit, fire it straight down the middle, sell it like you believe it, and, see how it goes. What other
this
choice
guy,
you have? Huh?
you think this guy lies to his wife?
I mean, I know that's pretty low. That's pretty low. Maybe I should pray on that. But and I feel like he's trying that to us. He's just looking us right in the eye and saying, "No, I didn't."
Wait a second. Which wife?
And I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I think and that's true. I think he's always done that with every group. He always winds up taking both sides of an issue. He does it at different times and he does it with different groups, but he's always taken both sides on issues. And then later, whatever actually happens, he then says, "Well, I predicted it." I was ahead of the
Right.
curve. I knew it was going to happen. I
Right.
said so.
Yeah, he likes to show off how right he was because he was on both sides of every issue all the time. So yeah, something's gonna pay out.
Exactly. So it's a strategy. It works for him, and as you pointed out, the people who are his believers, they lap
Yeah.
that up, man. They are
Yeah.
right there, and they agree with how wise he is, and what successful businessman he is, and how his wisdom has brought to bear the great American rebirth, whatever it is. Um,
Lobotomy patients is what they are.
It is, but and this is such a stark difference that's what I think that's part of why there was a backlash. I think that's part of why he's sort of stammered because when his own people start freaking out, he does take notice of that. He does go, "Oh well, yeah, that. Oh, okay, sure,
Yep. That brushes him back from the plate.
right. That's yeah. Oh, I shouldn't have done that one. Right, gotcha."
Whoops.
He'll justify it. He'll say it was the right thing, but at the same time, he'll also backtrack on it very slowly and that's part of his charm. Um, and that also brings us, speaking of his charm and his elegance with women, I
Never
believe
ends.
that brings us to, yes, that brings us to our Epstein count up of the day. The days since the unredacted Epstein list has not been released. And today would be day 3,879 and counting. We will continue to do so, most likely forever. And you can
40
keep
days, Matt. It's been 40 days now. 40 days out of code. 40 days illegal. Hasn't been 40 days since the judge said, gimme. It's been 40 days since the judge said you have until that day to give me what I asked for. And we're just coasting, breaking the law every day.
and he wouldn't have it any other way.
That's right.
Yeah. Um, Look, it's only 34 felonies right now, and there's plenty of space. Okay, well, that also brings us, I believe, to the conclusion of our evening's broadcast. Thank you for joining us at PolitiPod Live for Political Talk. You're welcome to join us every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here for PolitiPod Live. If you want political laughs, you can join us and a half dozen of our friends for our monthly political comedy podcast, PolitiPod. You'll find that at soundcloud.com/PolitiPod. This is Matt Nisanoff
And I'm Tom Bickle.
saying good night.
Good night.